Hey, hello everyone. Cindy Reed here with the partnership. Good evening. Thank you for joining today's meeting, and we're going to get started. So, for tonight, for our agenda, we'll have the partnership overview. I just gave the welcome remarks, partnership overview program updates. We'll also have some information on the New York City lien sale. We have a presenter from Scarborough Hospitality and Health Providers. We'll have a live poll at the end, and then we'll always, as we always will do, we will end with the raffle gift card and closeouts. And now I'm going to hand it over to Lamecca to share the partnership overview.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm Lamecca Holmes, Director of the East Flatbush Community Partnership. So glad that you are on with us this evening for Open Door. Want to just share with you all that we are one of 11 partnerships, and we are funded by ACS as one of their primary prevention strategies. I just love to always describe us as a hub. We are the place where partners, service providers, and our residents come to connect. So we help families that are in need of housing, employment, education, medical services to get the right assistance that they need. And we also provide a lot of community events. I know that some of you on now have attended some of our events. And so we're just grateful that you're on, and keep your eyes and ears open. Today's topic is hot. So thank you again. And let's get into the rest of our session today.
Thank you, Lamecca. Now let's move into the program updates. So, want to remind everyone about our monthly meetings. One, you're already attending, which is Open Door Meeting, which is held on the second Thursday of each month at 7 p.m. via Zoom. It is a great space to connect, learn, and share. Additionally, our general meeting takes place on the fourth Thursday of each month from 3 to 5. Meeting details will be shared in the chat shortly. We'll want to also encourage you all to sign up for our newsletter if you're not already receiving it, because that's how you can stay up to date about heard about general meeting and the open door meeting. And Lamecca will be dropping that in the chat. Thank you so much, Lamecca. And just to mention, our general meeting next meeting is scheduled for March 27th. Sorry, just adding some people to the meeting and moving on. Okay, also want to highlight our upcoming Herd at Home meeting in collaboration with Brooklyn Level Up on March 29th, which is a Saturday at 11 a.m. The theme is the power of partnership, and we have a great lineup planned for that day. We also want to share that we'll have like refreshments, distribution of fresh produce, and also end the meeting with raffle gift cards. This is a great opportunity again to connect, so mark your calendar for that. Next, we want to share an opportunity for you to get involved. We are currently looking for community ambassadors to help strengthen local connections. If you or anyone is interested in making an impact, this is a great opportunity for you. It's a part-time role, which includes engaging residents, families, and local organizations, supporting community events and workshops, and also serving as a liaison between the community partnership and the community. So if you're interested in applying, we are going to be dropping the link in the chat as well, along with the flyer for all the stuff that I've just mentioned earlier. And now I'm going to hand it over to our great partner, Brooklyn Level Up, and the presenter is Allison Martinez, the co-founder and CEO of Brooklyn Level Up.
Good evening, everyone. I wanted to just make sure that, as you know, as part of our work, that the upcoming New York City lien sale is coming on May 20th. This is something that we have actually been fighting against as part of the Abolish the Tax Lien Sale Coalition. And what it does is it actually, because of the way that it is structured, we know that people have to pay their property taxes, water bills, and the like. But when they fall behind, the city can actually sell that lien to a private trust, which then adds fees and additional interest on, which makes it even harder for families and seniors in particular, nonprofits and churches to be able to keep their properties from potentially being foreclosed on should they not be able to make payment arrangements. So we are hosting at the Clarendon branch of the Public Library for the next few Saturdays. You can see listed on March, starting this Saturday, March 15th. Opportunities from 12 to 3 to help people get off the lien sale list for this year. You have whatever actions you take, whether it be to pay what you owe, to enter into a payment plan, or apply for any of the property tax exemptions that you may be eligible for should you be on the list. You must take action by May 19th in order to avoid being on the lien sale list. In community boards 17, 14, and 18, altogether, there are over 2,700 properties that are on that list, and we need to do work as a community to help them people know that they're on the list and most importantly get off the list. So if you have time to volunteer, you can also reach out. You have the information there. You can reach out by email at info@bklvlup.org, or you can call 917-680-6964 if you want a door knock. Help us get the direct people who are on the list knowing what's happening and what their options are, or you can come out and table with us and help people fill out forms. It's up to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Allison. I just hope that you all share that information. If you're not a homeowner, it does not matter. Do your best to share this information. Again, it's about saving the homes in our community. We lose them, you're not getting it back. It's very hard to get it back. So please share this information. Lamecca has dropped the link in the chats for the Department of Finance website, and we'll be inviting Allison next month to share more detail about this next month. So invite people that you know to hear that information even more, and let them know about the opportunities for assistance at the Clarendon Branch Brooklyn Library.
Okay, I have the pleasure of introducing our main presenter, and we have up Brett Scudder, President and CEO of Scudder Consulting. And today's topic is going to be all around emotional wellness, mental health, pain crisis, along with other ready available resources to support our community. So I pass it over to Brett. Thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Reed, for the invite. Thank you, Ms. Holmes, for the introduction. My name is Brett Scudder. I am a behavioral health provider in New York City. For the last over 20 years, I travel all over the country to do my work around emotional wellness and mental health. So I'm very happy that I'm able to share with you tonight some of the great work that we're doing, what we have done, and just what we're seeing right now. So I know time is very short. So I'm going to give you a presentation that I normally give to clinicians and people in the health field in 3 or 4 hours, because you're all such beautiful people. I will give it to you in 40 minutes. So keep up with me. And please, if you have any questions while I'm doing this presentation, please feel free to ask. I want this to be very interactive. All right. So don't be afraid. It's all good. All right. So again, my name is Brett Scudder. I'm a suicide attempt survivor. I'm someone who has lived and living experiences. I've used and is still using health and mental health services across the state. And I do know right now that we are very, very challenged in terms of healthcare services and the fact that services are so hard to come by. How many people on here right now are using or have used healthcare services in the last 60 days? Just say hi, my name isn't just.
Who Reggie Burger? Tomorrow I got. What's tomorrow?
All right. I see some people had raised their hands. How many people have had a very good experience in the healthcare setting in the last 60 days? All right, Miss Stephanie, thank you. I see your hand raised, so that's a good thing. So I'm going to go through something with you tonight, which is one of the most frequent topics that I get asked about when I'm doing presentations, to talk about what are some of the behaviors, and when people are expressing and feeling pain, what does that look like? And I want us to really think about this, because this could be any one of us right now, right? Could be you, could be a loved one, could be someone who you are familiar with the work or school, or where. This could be any one of us right now, what we're going to talk about tonight. And as I said, please feel free to reach out, just to open up and say, hey, I have a question. So when we talk about mental health and when we think about mental health, a lot of times we forget that there's also a behavioral side of it, right? A lot of times we look at people and we see behaviors and we don't think of what could have happened to that person for them to feel the way they're feeling, to act the way they're acting, and how can we engage and interact with that person so that we're not making them feel worse, we're not adding labels to them, we're not, making them feel uncomfortable by what we're seeing. And so we're going to look at understanding emotional pain and what those experiences that comes with that is. As I said, I'm going to be going through this. If you have any questions, feel free to stop and ask Miss Reed or Miss Holmes. I'm going to ask your help. We're looking at any questions in the chat room while I stay focused on the slides. All right, so let's dive into this for a little bit. When we think about emotion, sometimes we don't think about what's a trigger, where did that come from, why is someone talking or behaving the way that they do, right? And a lot of times we find that a lot of people's behaviors come from a place of abuse. So you ever heard this thing that says hurt people hurt people? This is one of the ways in which we see abused and abusive people who have been hurt, who are holding on to that hurt, can't let go of the hurt, have never been healed from the hurt or got treatment from that. And so they're struggling, and so they turn around and hurting other people. Abuse, abuse, and abusive comes from someone being hurt. Someone has experienced pain, and it could be trauma. Addiction. I know we have this talk that's been going around for the last couple of years that says the opioid crisis. I'm going to be honest with you, as someone who's been working in this field for over 20 years, we don't have an opioid crisis. What we have is a pain crisis. People are suffering and struggling in pain, and they're using drugs and alcohol and different types of substances as a way to suppress and manage the pain that they're going through. So when we look at addiction, I want you to think of someone who you may know who is an addict, or just people in general who are addicts. I want you to just think about them not as an addict, but ask yourself, what could have happened to this person for them now to be drinking, smoking, using drugs, whatever types of drugs they are, and how can we, by understanding the behavior is coming from a place of pain or emotional despair, how can we talk with that person to help to understand what they're going through and the help that they may need? So I want us to think about addiction through the lens of someone being hurt, someone who is in emotional pain, someone who has been traumatized, someone who has been victimized in some way or the other. Same thing goes for anger. We see sometimes a lot of people are angry, they're very aggressive, and we look at the anger, we look at the aggression, and we start labeling the behavior, what we're seeing, but we're not asking ourselves or asking the person, what happened for you to be as angry as you are right now? What I'm seeing and hearing in the anger that you're portraying right now, what happened? I know it may not be me, but I recognize that you are hurting, and that anger is something that you may not be aware of. Because sometimes when someone is in emotional distress, their behavior and their attitude is not something that they may be coherent about. And so we're thinking to ourselves, well, this person definitely should know better, right? This person should definitely know better and not to be talking or behaving like this. But I want you to take a step back and just think, this person could be hurting in such a way that the behavior that you're seeing is not something that they have control of. They're just really acting out in anger because of the emotional pain and despair that they're feeling. Anxiety. One of the biggest mental health challenge we're seeing right now across the board is anxiety, especially right now in the state of where we are as a country. The anxiety levels around politics, global warming, food insecurities, cost of living, living in New York City, the challenges of New York City, public transportation, health, so many stressors are on a lot of us. And so the anxiety levels that we're seeing right now are the highest levels we've seen in 10, 15, 20 years. And I'm not talking about anxiety in just adults. I'm talking about anxiety all the way down to children under the age of 10. The anxiety levels that we're seeing right now are altering moods, appetites, behaviors, circumstances, situations, relationships, families, lifestyles. Yes, a lot of different things coming out of emotional distress, emotional pain, mental health, affecting our moods, appetites, and behaviors. Some people are eating more, some people are eating less. Some people are not sleeping, some people are sleeping more. Some people are very agitated, some people are very relaxed. Some people are very aggressive, some people are very quiet. Some people are passive, some aggressive. It's an altering state and it's different and unique for everyone. Even if people are suffering from the same environmental challenges, each person's behavior and attitudes are individual and are specific. So we can't just say that because I was dealing with anxiety and I'm able to manage my anxiety. So if you're having anxiety, then you should be able to manage your anxiety too. Unfortunately, it does not work that way. And we really need to stop, you know, grouping everyone into the same categories simply because of the circumstances, right? Breathless. A lot of times working with people who are in deep emotional despair, who are struggling with their mental health, the one thing that you hear and the one thing I hear a lot is how heavy this weight is on their chest, right? This heavy weight where they truly feel like I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I'm so overwhelmed right now. I'm so stressed out right now. I can't breathe. I can't function. Emotional despair is something that can be very heavy. Sometimes in my work, I talk about that heavy weight that's sitting on someone's chest that they truly feel like they can't breathe because truly that's what it feels for them. We have a tendency sometimes to want to tell people how they should do, how they should be, how they should act, what they could say, and how they should behave without understanding how deeply heavy the pain and suffering that they're feeling is, and how that pain and suffering can lead to things like depression, right? And depression is the highest levels we've seen in a very long time, to the point where we have to start looking at depression from a different perspective in the health field, right? We have to start looking at depression through a different lens because things have changed so much that depression is not what the DSM, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, says about depression. Things are changing. Yes, underlying, it may be depression, but what is causing the depression? Why is someone feeling depressed? What happened for them to feel depressed, right? And so we're seeing right now where the emotional weight that many people are carrying is a debilitating pain and suffering for them, to the point that many people are not even able to come out of their homes, come out of their beds. The pain and suffering is just really so debilitating that they can't function. We have seen reports of how many people, as a result of call outs due to health and mental health, how many people are missing out of the workforce simply because of mental health challenges, emotional despair, trauma, pain. And as a society, we're not doing enough to educate our communities on these challenges, just like we are tonight, right? We are not doing enough to educate our communities because honestly, this is not a healthcare problem. This is a public health crisis, right? And we all have a part to play in addressing and solving this challenge because it's not just a medical or a clinical problem. Pain and suffering is not only coming from a health, physical, or clinical problem. Fear is a natural part of a lot of our lives, right? A lot of us live in fear for so many different reasons. That fear, have you ever thought about fear as really being a debilitating thing for someone? someone who is in fear to the point where they are so overwhelmed that they don't even know how to react, how to function. Fear and torment are very powerful emotions that affects even our young children. Tormented by fear. Fear of what? There are many reasons why people in New York City are fearful. Especially if you notice lately, there are more people who are being pushed in front of trains on train tracks. We have more people who are afraid to get on public transportation because of the chaos and the violence. We have more people who are afraid to take public transportation. We have more people who are afraid of the gun violence. People are so many layers of fear and torment that people are living in a heightened state of anxiety, depression, grief, sadness, guilt, and remorse. Can you imagine knowing someone who is struggling so badly with their mental and emotional wellness that they can't even function? It throws off their whole be. Have you ever had a friend or a family member, church member? We say, "Oh my God, Brett, I haven't seen you in a long time. You look so different, or you behaving so differently, right? We haven't seen you in a long time." But now we recognize there's something different about you. We don't understand what's happening in that person's life because a lot of people are ashamed to talk about how they're feeling. We're not creating enough safe spaces for people to honestly talk about how they're feeling helpless and frustrated because they're not able to manage life. They can't afford cost of living. They can't afford quality food to eat. They can't afford rent. They can't afford to do so many things. So they feel helpless. And feeling helpless and frustrated is another weight that's sitting on top of all the other weight that you're feeling already. Being helpless for a lot of people is a deep despair in ways that sometimes causes physical and psychological health challenges. When we think about a lot of the things that we're talking about right now, we always look at it from a deficit, someone who can function, someone who doesn't take care of themselves, someone who's not able to articulate well about how they're feeling, someone who can't manage how they're feeling. But do you know that there are great people in high level positions who are doing a great job, but they're still experiencing this type of pain and suffering we're talking about? It's just that they are high functioning, right? They are high functioning, meaning that even under duress, even during depression, heightened anxiety, and fear, they can still stay focused enough to do their jobs well. So, this is not about people looking a certain way, or we can say, and I've heard people say it all the time, you look like someone who's depressed. You look depressed. You look sad. All these things that we tell ourselves that a person looks like. But then when we look at the people who seem to be happy, who are smiling, who carry themselves well, we tend to tell ourselves that they're okay. You see what we're doing here, right? We're using outward appearances to depict how someone is feeling, how they're doing, just by looking at them. We can't do that when it comes to what we're talking about tonight. Hopelessness and being incoherent. Now, here's another thing for us. Sometimes when someone is hurting and deeply hurting, we can't expect them to talk nice or to talk proper, right? We can't expect them to express themselves the way that we feel it should be, right? This is not about you. This is about the person. The person who is hurting and in pain may not be able to tell you, "Oh, Miss Reed, I had a good day today. I'm feeling okay. Everything is doing okay. Everybody's okay. Miss Holmes, oh, today was a great day and I feel super fine." No. Sometimes people will not be able to find the right words to say when they're in this level of despair. They have so much in their head that they can't even put words together to be able to express to you how they're feeling. So, yes, they're incoherent and they may be stuttering or they may be babbling, but it's for us to understand, guess what? That person is in an emotional despair, a state of despair right now. And I can't expect this person to use the right words, right? In the right ways. And sometimes I hear people will say, oh, you can't talk like that. Who are we to tell someone who is experiencing pain that they can talk the way that they're talking to express the pain that they're feeling? This is why a lot of people shut down. This is why a lot of people who are having mental health crisis, emotional distress, emotional despair, don't talk about how they're feeling because we're too judgmental. A lot of us are too judgmental. As soon as someone starts talking about how they're feeling, we think that we have all the answers. Oh, I know what's wrong with you. Oh, I know what you should do. Oh, you should do this, or you should do that. But that's not the way how it works. That's not the way it should be. When someone is hurting and they're in pain, they may not be able to articulate well. And it's okay. If we are the trusted person that they're coming to, our role is supposed to be a trusted, safe person who you can tell me anything you want to tell me. I will sit here, I will listen, I won't judge, I won't say anything, I won't try to make you feel bad, I won't try to make. No, I understand that you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling anxious, you're feeling hurt, and I can't imagine how you're feeling, but I'm here to listen. I am here to listen. So when we think of coherency, I want us to think about putting ourselves in a position of pain. You're hurting deeply, you're hurting real bad. What would you do? How would you behave? How would you talk about how you're going? And who would you talk about how you're feeling to? Right? Why do you think loneliness has now risen to the top of the number one health issues across the country and across the world? Loneliness. I remember 18 years ago when I was doing presentations in the city and I was talking about people who are lonely in marriages and intimate relationships. And people were like, wait, what? How can you be lonely in a marriage and an intimate relationship? How can you be lonely living in the same environment with family members and loved ones? Like, people could not wrap their head around that, right? Couldn't wrap their head around that. Because when we think of loneliness, we think of loneliness from the physical perspective, someone who doesn't have anyone around them, right? But there's a difference between being alone and being lonely, right? Let's be real. There's a difference between being alone and be lonely. And a lot of us are around people who make us feel alone and lonely because those people don't have our best interests at heart anyway. So you're afraid to share how you're feeling. You're overwhelmed with your emotional state. You're overwhelmed with the pain that you're going through. You're overwhelmed with the challenges that you're facing. But now you can't even trust anyone or too many people anymore to open up to about how you're feeling. So you choose to be isolated. You choose to be alone. You choose to be lonely because, yes, you feel safer being alone and lonely than being around people and opening up to people. How did we get to that point of a caring community no longer caring? How did we get to that point where we've become so judgmental of each other that people fear even just saying how they're feeling because they don't want to be judged? Some of the people who are judging other people for what they're going through are going through the same thing. It's just that they didn't say it, they didn't tell anyone. Some of the most stressed out people are the ones who said, I'm too blessed to be stressed. So loneliness, my family, loneliness should never be part of our communities. There should be no one in our community that chooses to be alone and is living with loneliness because of fear of talking about their mental and emotional state. We cannot afford to lose people just because we are not being amenable to what they're going through or even understanding what they're going through. Immeasurable physical aches and pains. How many of us know that our emotions, are the psychological things that we go through also affects the physical part of our body? A lot of the aches and pains that we're feeling, and we're taking ibuprofen and Tylenol and all these different medications to suppress pain, but those pains are coming out of emotional despair, emotional crisis, emotional imbalance, and we're not understanding that, right? So we're trying to treat the symptoms, but we're leaving the sources of what's causing that pain and suffering. This is why education around emotional wellness and mental health is so critical, because a lot of us who are having physical health problems, let me be real with you, a lot of people come into us for counseling and stuff with physical health problems or physical symptoms of all different types. It's because they're stressed out, because their anxiety level is so high, because they're feeling depressed, they're struggling. And the body is telling you something is wrong by the aches and pains that you're feeling. Yes, pain can be very scary and terrifying. Is there anyone in here tonight who loves pain, who loves being in pain, other than me? Miss Holmes, I see you shaking your head, but boy, Miss Holmes, I can tell you, pain can be a beautiful thing. Yes, ma'am. Pain can be one of the
I'm
best.
listening. I'm listening.
Pain can be one of the best teachers. It can be one of the greatest and the best teachers that teaches us some of life's greatest lessons. Some people, if they don't feel pain or if they're not in pain, they won't learn. And that's just the truth. So when we think about mental and emotional wellness, I want us to, think deeper than what we already knew. And looking at these things that we're talking about right now, as we see them playing out, traumatizing, violent. Sometimes you see violence and you say, oh, what's senseless? Every time I hear people say the word senseless act of violence, I'm like, there is no such thing as a senseless act of violence, because the person who's doing the violence thought something sensible of it. It may not seem to make sense to us, but to the person at the time, we're not condoning it, but we just have to understand it. It may make sense. Vulnerable and exposed. A lot of people fear talking about how they feel because they feel vulnerable. And when you feel vulnerable, you're opening up yourself to people, to judgment, to criticism, to being ostracized. A lot of things that many people are not comfortable with. And so the reality is, pain is permeating our consciousness physically and emotionally, psychologically. It's just the whole body is just consumed by pain. You can't tell if it's a physical pain causing the psychological pain, or you can't tell if the psychological pain is causing the physical pain, because you're just in so much pain. And so you're treating the symptoms and you're going to the doctor and you're saying, doctor, I'm in so much pain. I'm feeling pain here and pain here. And what do? They run tests, they do x-rays, MRI, CT scans, and all these things. They say, hey, Miss Reed, Miss Holmes, we don't know why you're in pain, because there's nothing showing up abnormal. Everything looks normal. But you're saying, Doc, oh my God, I have these chronic headaches, or my eyes hurt, or my joints hurt, or my back hurts. And you will never think to yourself that maybe, just maybe,
You think,
it could be as a result of just
right,
emotional distress that you're going through. So the pain is just within us, and it's just moving around within us because we never took time or had the time to heal or to deal with it. And so here's a reality right now. My reality versus your perception. It's my reality that I'm feeling this pain, right? I'm going through this pain because I feel it. I'm the one feeling it. I'm the one going through it. But you're perceiving that this pain that I'm talking about isn't real, or your perceptions of the pain that I'm feeling isn't real. So now we have a real situation here where it's my reality versus your perceptions. And in the middle of all of that, I'm dying slowly or instantly. Pain is the reason why people try to kill themselves or attempt to kill themselves or complete killing themselves. They're hurting, they're in pain. Can't stop the pain, don't want the pain, don't know how to manage the pain. The pain is controlling them. They're not controlling the pain. This is the reality. And in my 20 odd years of doing this work, I can tell you with 100% certainty that there are no age or gender limitations to what you're looking at right here. So I'm going to leave this right here for a few minutes for us to take a look at this. I want you to take a look at what you're seeing right now on the screen. I want you to really be honest with yourself and look at this and ask yourself, how many of these things or how much of this am I going through? How much of this is really about me? Is there anything that I'm looking at here that I can say for myself, like I'm going through, I'm struggling with, or I need help with? And then ask yourself, look at what do you feel in your heart when you look at this slide, when you look at all these symptoms and behaviors? What do you feel? I mean, honestly, this is a lot. This is a lot. This could be someone this second, the next second it could be better or worse. This could be someone now or tomorrow, could be you now, and the next 5 minutes could change. Like this is a reality for so many of us that I really need us to really take a minute to understand. The levels of pain and suffering that people are feeling is very frightening. This is not a joke. This is not a simple thing. This comes out of the work that I do at the Suicide Institute, the foundation, my travels across the country, my hundreds of speaking events every year, my crisis counseling, my suicide response services. I know for 100% certainty what I've shared with you tonight in these few beautiful hours is 95% of the population of us in the city going through. It's not just poor people. I got some clients who are rich people too. They're hurting. I got clients who are law enforcement, legislators, church leaders. Like every one of us in our society at some point or some level is going through or have gone through pain or still struggling with that. So I want us to just humanize this tonight for a minute and ask ourselves, could that be me? Is that me? Could that be my family member or loved one? And my God, if that's the amount of pain that they're in, how am I helping them to feel better? How am I helping them to overcome the pain that they're going through rather than adding on to it, rather than making them feel frustrated, rather than making them feel like I can't even tell you how I'm feeling? So I want us to talk about that for a few minutes because I know, as I said, we have a short time, and I packed it in for you. Usually that one slide is a 3-4 hour presentation. You're also beautiful, Miss Holmes. I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you so much for just what you shared. And I've definitely experienced many of those. And as you were speaking, I was thinking about a family member of mine who I know is experiencing that as well. So my question for you is, how do I navigate a relationship with someone who is in pain,
Mm-hmm.
but it also leads to verbal and emotional abuse
Yes.
towards me, right?
Right.
So I know the person's hurting,
Right.
but I'm like, I don't like how you treat me either, So like, how do you
Yeah.
navigate those two?
So a great question. Thank you for asking that. It's very hard when you're trying to help a loved one who you see in pain. First of all, you're feeling the pain because they're in pain. You don't want anyone, especially a loved one, to be struggling with pain, right? So you're really trying to be the best that you can be. But you also have to be very careful because since this person is a loved one and someone you care about, their potential of hurting you is way more higher, right? The things that they say and do will hurt you even more. So if you look back on the slide where it talked about being, incoherent, you really have to think to yourself, this is not personal, right? This is not personal. What you're saying, what you're doing, I know you're not targeting me or saying it to me. So I'm going to take my hurt and put that aside for a minute. I'm going to listen to you and be supportive of what you're saying right now. But I want us to think about I can't be the person that always takes this beating from you. I can't always be your sounding board because it hurts me to see you hurting and then you're hurting me by your hurting. So here's what I'd like us to do. Now that you have shared with me what you're going through and how you're feeling, can we go together to find the help that you need? It doesn't mean that we have to physically go together. It means that we can call, we can look for some resources. We can say, all right, you know what? We're going to call to see if we could get you a mental health appointment. We're going to call to see, but I don't want you to feel like you have to do this alone. And so now this person is saying to themselves, well, you didn't just tell me you can't help me or you walked away from me. You at least you let me know how you're feeling, that you're willing to help. And I'm grateful for that. And sometimes some people will check themselves and say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't do that intentionally to hurt you. It's just that I got so much going on in my head right now. But your question is very valid and very important. You have to know your boundaries too. Because when this person is hurting you, you can start taking their pain and it's affecting you, not just within you, but also everything around you as well.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, you got to love your family members and loved ones from a distance. They need help. You know that they need help, but you also have to be very careful to not overextend yourself so their pain and suffering is now making you suffer as well. Sounds good? I hope everybody got that. Just because they're your family members and loved ones don't mean you got to take the beating. Okay? D, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Scudder. That was very informative. Also, I agree with Ms. Holmes. I similarly went through something like that with a loved one who had dementia, actually. And my friends were constantly telling me, oh, but they're not themselves. I said, I understand that. But when you keep hearing someone mentally abusing you, because it wasn't more physical, it was more mentally, just telling you this and telling you that. It got to the point where I internalized it, and that put me into a depression.
Yes. Yes. Yes, Miss D.
So
And
it's so true. It's sometimes it's easier said than done. Oh, they don't mean what they're saying. I said, but when you constantly keep hearing, verbal abuse every day, even though the person isn't in their right mind, you for me, I just internalized it to the point where I just completely shut down.
yeah, yeah. Miss D, I gotta tell you, I can't tell you how many parents bring their child in and have a hard time detaching from the child because the child is going through emotional distress. The child is traumatized, victimized, and so because the child doesn't know how to deal with that, they lash out on the parents in ways that sometimes parents feel so brokenhearted. It's the same thing for seniors and adults, right? But we have to be very, very careful, family. Listen, you have to be very careful, because when you start taking that pain and it starts, festering within you, it can cause a lot of physical and psychological challenges, right? And you could become even worse than the family member who's going through it, because the
Mhm.
family member is not going through it knowingly, but you're going through it knowingly, which makes it harder for you. So you have to be
Yes.
very careful. You can love your loved ones and family members from a distance, getting them the help that they need, and knowing that, you know what, I don't feel bad because when I see your calls, I don't answer that call anymore, because I know we could be on the phone for 3, 4 hours and you just berating me. And I just sit here
Hmm.
on the phone feeling like, oh my God, how much more of this can I take? Right.
Yes.
So you can love your family member and loved ones from a distance by helping them to get the help that they need, but also helping yourself to not feel guilty for no longer being able to help. This is far bigger than you. This is now a mental health crisis that requires mental health professional care and resources. And you cannot do that for them. So either helping them to get the help, or telling them that, listen, you need to find that help since you don't want me to help you. But Miss D, on the other side of that, you have to also talk to someone about how this has made you feel, so you don't have resentment and guilt about this relationship with that family member.
Well, that's what, it was actually my mom. She's now deceased. But then I didn't see on your list because after that, after the death, then came the regret. And I didn't see regret on the slide that you had, because that's what I tend to still deal with to this day. And my mom passed in 2016. And even when I start to tell the story, it's like I start to tear up, and I would tell my son, I'm still not over it.
Right. So I want to go back to what you just said about regret not being a part of the slide. Regret can come into two parts of the slide, right? Actually, three parts. Let me see if I can bring this up. Give me just a second. I know we're over time, but I want to definitely make sure that I go back to this as Miss D has said. Let me bring this back up for you. Um, but yes, you're right. Where is my share button? Oh, come on. All right, Miss D. So look at this. Oops. Sorry, give me 1 second, everybody. 1 second. Why is this acting up? Okay, here we go. So you didn't see regret, right? You see where
Hmm.
you see fear, you see grief, you see sadness, you see guilt, you see
Yes.
remorse. All of those three categories right there also could be part of regret, right? Regret comes in the form
Oh, okay.
of fear. Regret can also come in the form of grief. Let's say, for example,
Hmm.
you regretted not telling your family member, loved one, or whatever, oh, I'm sorry, I wish I was there for you more. I'm sorry I couldn't do more. And that person passes away. Now you pass away, you can't tell the person anymore. So there's guilt, right? There's grief, there's remorse.
Hmm.
So you said your mother passed away, and you maybe never get a chance to hear her tell you, "Oh, I'm sorry that I did these things to you." So you have the guilt, you have the remorse, you have the grief. So yes, regret
Hmm.
can come in a number of different ways. But just because you don't see it here, and I'm glad you said that, it can fit into a number of those different pointers across this.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. It's always hardest, family. It's always hardest when our loved ones are going through pain and suffering, and we have to watch them suffer, we have to hear them suffer, we have to be the one they call on and we answer. And this is why we have to make sure that in our own state of health and wellness, we're taking good care of ourselves. You can't take care of everybody else and not take care of yourself.
Hmm.
You got to treat yourself right. You got to be kind to yourself. You got to give yourself space to grow. You got to be forgiving, not just to the person, but forgiving to yourself. Forgiveness, a
Hmm.
lot of people think that forgiveness is about the other person. No,
Yeah.
forgiveness is for you.
Yes.
You know, a lot of times
Thank you.
people lose people in their lives and they say, I will never recover from that because the person never told me I'm sorry, or I'm sorry I hurt you, I'm sorry I did. And you're holding on to that for too long, so long, too many years, not realizing that that forgiveness you seek is more for you and not for them. All right, so I know I summed this up. I told you I was going to give it to you all nice, so sweet, and I did. So Miss Reed and Miss Holmes, thank you. I turn it back over to you, and I look forward to if we could do this again with a little more time that we can get into some Q&A and really talk about this. I would definitely look forward to that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate everything you share. This is really good.
Yes,
Thank
thank you. It was really good. I do have one last question that I would like you to touch on before we completely wrap it up. I want you to share how we can ensure that the information that you shared today takes root in us and in our community where many have deep-seated experience where their struggles often are overlooked, dismissed, or even met with offense. How do we break through that deep history of dismissal to foster, like what you said, trust, healing, and engagement?
Well, I mean, great question, Miss Reed. It starts with what we're doing right now. It starts with all our community groups starting to say, let's learn more about mental health and emotional wellness. All right, let's learn more about how our experiences have caused us pain and suffering, and the generational trauma that we keep bringing over and over from generation to generation. It starts with these types of efforts where we come together as groups, where we're having these type of learning and awareness, so that each one of us can have a better understanding, for us to start the process within ourselves first, right? We have to start that process within ourselves first by understanding what we're going through, understanding what we're dealing with, right? And understanding the traumas that many of us are carrying for so long. So the brokenness within our communities that's coming from this trauma and pain, it starts with these type of conversations, because you know what? Everybody in this space tonight now understands that this is not a you problem or a them problem. This is a we problem. We all have a part to play in this. We all play a part in what it takes for us to heal our communities, what it takes for us to heal ourselves. And even when it comes to the churches, I work with a lot of church leaders. We're even from the pulpit. We got to have the clergy leaders from the pulpit talking about the importance of mental and emotional wellness and healing.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you
And
for the
then
opportunity to be here with you all.
I know you said that people could follow up with you if they had other questions, and we'll definitely invite you again to share more. Did you want to share your contact in the chat for individuals?
Yes, I will do that. I will do that. Yes, thank you.
And as you do that, I'll bring up the remaining part of the presentation. Again, thank you. Okay, everyone, we have a few minutes before we wrap up. Before we move into the raffle, we need your input. We are planning a financial series, and we want to know what topics matter most to you. So here's how to participate in sharing what topics matter to you. We need you to, if you're on your computer or on your phone, we need you to go to mentimeter.com. And Lamecca is going to be dropping this in the chat. And when you go there, it's going to ask you to enter a code, and the code is 1345-0772. And when you enter that code, the topics are going to come up, and you're going to select the top 5 topics that you're most interested in for our upcoming financial series. This is a addition from, we had, his name is escaping me, but we had a financial advisor joined us last month, and a lot of you expressed interest in the financial series, and he teaches a lot of topics, and we want to make sure that we provide the top topics that everybody's most interested in. If you have any issues in the poll, you let us know, and we're gonna put up the poll live right now. So again, Lamecca is gonna be dropping in the chat the details that I just mentioned. I'll leave it up for a bit before I move to the poll to see the results, but we hope that you all participating in that now and share your interest. And before is any questions, concerns?
Miss Cindy, good evening. Good evening, Miss Holmes. I missed the presentation because I just came in. You know, speaking of pain, emotional pain, I just lost my mom almost 3 months ago. And I can see from what I saw here that my sister is going through the emotional pain of my mom's death. And I'm not home with her. I just speak with her on the phone. Each time I call her, she's breaking down. I am so sorry I missed this presentation that I could really give her some pointer from this, but I'm going to be making contact with Mr. Barrett to see if I can get some advice from him as to how to go about helping her from a distance.
Yes, please do reach out to me, my sister. I can give you some tools and help you with helping her the best way.
Yeah. She died just before Christmas, and she had baked cake and she had prepared the meal for Christmas, and mom passed off, and she's still taking it very hard.
It's 25 years since my mom passed, and I'm not gonna lie to you, still a little struggle for me.
It does.
Her birthday was on March 9th, and that day was just another very solemn day for me. So
Yeah.
it's not easy to lose someone you're very close to. We have
No.
to learn how to deal with grief
No.
before it starts taking the life away from us.
No. Yeah, I'll surely try and not try. I'm gonna make contact with you as to what pointers I can get from you to share with her.
I look forward to it, my sister. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Someone said they're only able to select 2. I'm not sure why. I was trying to see how can I reset that, but it would reset the whole thing, and I don't want to do that. Yes, oh thank you, Gilbert. I appreciate the information for the presenter from last month. But again, I see some people are responding, so continue to bring that in so we can have a good amount of input on based on what topics for the financial series we should include. And we definitely do have some responses in, but definitely want to see some more. We have a good amount of people on tonight's meeting, so I definitely think we can get some more people to share their input. And if for any reason you can't participate in this live poll, the topics are at the bottom. You can type them in the chat and say, it's not working for me, but this is my selection.
Cindy, would the investments fall under the financial planning? You know, like annuities and IRAs and
Yes.
CDs. Would that fall under the financial investment part?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Ms. Shields, I see your comment in the chat saying that it's saying that you already responded. I'm not sure why, but you can put in the chat the topics that you prefer the most. It looks
Okay,
like
thank
right
you.
now a lot of people are saying budgeting 101 and financial planning. And when we get some more input, that'll be great. And those who've responded so far, can you please put your name in the chat so I can ensure that I have you down for the raffle? Yeah, I see some more coming in the chat. We have budgeting 101, credit 101, budgeting, planning for next generation. Planning for next generation. Okay. Thank you so much for all of you that participated either through the poll or in the chat. We greatly appreciate it. Okay, now I'm going to move back to the presentation to do the raffle. I believe we have everyone. Does anyone not see their name?
I don't see my name. Oh, I see D Miller, but that's not me. I'm
Okay.
under DM. Do you need the last name?
No, that's okay.
Okay.
So everybody's included. All right, here it goes.
I don't see my name. Freddie. No. A respectful, trusting peer.
Okay,
Have a trusting, supportive relationship with family, friends, co-workers, as well as his own.
Here. Thank you.
thank you.
Cindy, Freddie said his name was missing. Are you able to add it?
Yes, I'm adding it now.
Okay.
It was after I already pressed the
Okay, great.
button. Thank you. All right. Ms. Paul.
Yes, thank you so much and for all the information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Karen Shields, you still
I'm
with
here.
us?
Yes, I
Awesome.
am. Thank you.
Thank you all for participating in today's meeting. We just did the raffle card, so we thank you. Congratulations to all the winners. We appreciate everyone's time and engagement tonight. If you have any questions or would like to follow up, please feel free to reach out. I'll share our contact information through the presentation, which is the last slide. And here it goes. Explore our website at eastflatbushpartnership.org. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook at East Flatbush Partnership and email us at ef@cpp.jccany.org. Again, thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your night. It's Thursday, so the weekend is there. Enjoy your weekend as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good night.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Take care.
Good night. Bye. Thank you.